Joyce Rupp begins this chapter in her book with a prayer, and I debated whether putting it at the end or at the beginning, but it is such a beautiful, it's a poem prayer. It's so beautiful that I just decided to do what she did, start the piece with her poem prayer. Some people lean against fence posts when their bodies ache from toil. Some people lean on oak trees, seeking God, seeking cool shade on hot, humid days. Some people lean on crutches when their limbs won't work for them. And some people lean on each other when their hearts can't stand alone. How long it takes to lean upon you, God of shelter and of strength. How long it takes to recognize the truth of where my inner power has its source. All my independence, with its arrogance, stands up and stretches within me, trying to convince my trembling soul that I can conquer troubles on my own. But the day of truth always comes when I finally yield to you, O God, knowing you are a steady stronghold, a refuge when times are tough. Thank you for offering me strength, for being the oak tree of comfort. Thank you for being that sturdy support when the limbs of my life are weak. Praise to you, eternal lean-to, for always being there for me. Continue to transform me with the power of your love. She writes, I came upon an old lean-to on one of my mountain hikes, another place you can find a lean-to. Few pieces of wood had been nailed together and set up in a remote pasture. As I looked at the lean-to, I imagined cattle, horses, and sheep seeking shelter, finding comfort from the harsh storms that come so quickly in the high places. I could also see how humans need our lean-tos into the storms of life which come upon us when our bodies are too weak to work, our spirits are too hurt to struggle, and our hearts are too pained to care. The journey of the human spirit has tiring searches, long stretches of grief and letting go, dark-hearted things that steal the energy from our spirits. At these times, we need lean-tos. Our lean-tos can be anyone or anything that brings us a sense of hope, a pause from the pain, a bit of strength to sustain us, a little vision for guidance, a touch of happiness. We have a wonderful lean-to in God whose heart always welcomes us and provides refuge for us. We often have people who stand by us and offer warmth, support, and refuge. Little comforts and glimmers of hope that we do not notice when we are strong become very significant for us when we are weak. A smile, a song, a sunrise, a bird's chirp, a phone call or a letter. In all these we rest our woes and our weariness and draw strength for our recovery. We all need lean-tos. We all need to be lean-tos for others. That's the blessing of human love and compassion. There are situations and moments in our lives when we are not strong. We feel weak, downtrodden, miserable. If we are fortunate, others will stand by us and walk with us. They will wait for us to grow, will be patient with our pain, will speak encouraging words and listen long hours to us. They will believe in us when our own belief is in shreds. They will love us when our own love has been mired in the dregs of self-pity or confusion. They will be strength for us. They will watch patiently with us until our life begins again. Lean-tos are not permanent havens. They are temporary but essential shelters when the storms rage around us or inside of us. Becoming too dependent upon others is emotionally unhealthy. We need to trust others for comfort, support, and vision when our spirit feels weak and visionless. But in the end, we have to do our part and accept our responsibility and make our own choices and decisions. It is unfair for us to expect others to do that for us. They can cheer us on and cheer us up. They can go on believing in us when we cease to believe in ourselves. They can go on believing, but they cannot do our growing for us. I'm deeply grateful for the lean-tos I've had in my life. I recall a friend who helped me through an extremely hurtful situation. My friend never tried to take away the many negative feelings this situation caused. He didn't criticize me, or rush me through the feelings, or urge me to hurry up and get over them. My friend just listened and listened. I trusted his honesty and his integrity. I listened when he asked me good questions. He helped me to gain greater clarity about my situation each time I spoke with him. One day when I had complained bitterly about the situation for the 1,000th time, so it seemed, I voiced my concern to him that I was afraid I'd lose his friendship for all the complaining I had done. I was afraid he'd get tired of hearing all my negativity. His response was wonderful. He asked me if I thought less of him when he was experiencing life's pain and when he needed a listening ear and heart. My answer was an obvious no. This response freed me to continue to lean. I did so for over a year until I knew that I was ready to leave the past behind. I was much healthier emotionally because I was able to lean on a good friend when I really needed to do so. I've learned much from the lean-tos in my life of Jesus. The more I've been able to get inside his human story, to sense what his thoughts and feelings must have been, the more I see how he too needed shelter, refuge, and strength from life's tough situations. He felt the stresses and the struggles that we feel on our own journeys. He knew what it was to need others. This is very evident in the first chapter of Mark's Gospel, where Jesus is already besieged by those seeking healing. Mark tells us that, and I quote, "They brought to him all who were sick and those who were possessed. The whole town came crowding around the door." End of quote. Jesus was surrounded by the painful cries, the ugly odors of leprosy and other disease wounds, the fears and distressed sounds of those who were ill. He heard the screams and the seizures and tortured groans of those who were possessed. The mob of people pressed in as well, trying to see what was happening. In the verse following this description, we learn about one of his lean-tos. This is a quote, "In the morning, long before dawn, he got up and left the house and went off to a lonely place and prayed there." Here, Jesus regained his peaceful center. He leans on the one who can restore his strength. Weary and worn out in body and spirit, he seeks solitude and silence, desiring to be refilled and renewed, pouring his heart out to someone he knew he could trust. Jesus learned to trust his entire person to this compassionate presence. Jesus leaned on his friends in his grief when he received the news of the death of his cousin John the Baptist. He withdrew by a boat to a lonely place where they could be by themselves. What kind of shelter and comfort did Jesus need, and what did he seek from those who were with him? Surely his heart was full of grief and sadness. He undoubtedly sought the comfort of being alone with those who knew him best and who knew John. who understood how much he hurt. Jesus also sought the lean-tos of friends as he traveled the roads during his ministry. Bethany, the home of Lazarus, Mary, and Martha, was a welcome haven for him, a place where he could kick off his sandals and be at home. What a wonderful, comforting shelter Bethany must have been for him, as the tensions of the rejections of his works and teachings increased. Scripture does not give us details, but we can imagine how helpful it was for Jesus to be able to speak of his struggles and his troubles with his good friends. Perhaps that is why Jesus felt that Mary's listening was more significant than Martha's dinner plans. Mary's listening presence was a wonderful lean-to for Jesus. One of the most intense leaning moments of Jesus was in the Garden of Olives. Jesus goes there in anguish and distress to draw strength for the final hours of his journey. Jesus yearns to lean on his friends, but they all fall asleep. Jesus says sadly to them, "So, you had not the strength to stay awake with me?" While hanging on the cross, Jesus leans on his disciples, John. The same disciple symbolically leaned back close to Jesus' chest at the supper. John stands beneath the tortured body of his beloved friend. Jesus sees him there, sees his mother in such pain, and chooses to lean on him by giving his mother into John's care. It is a tender moment. And that must have comforted Jesus, knowing that Mary would not be left alone. Sometimes we are forced to lean. We are too weak to go it alone. Jesus experienced this as he fell again and again under the heaviness of the cross. Physically, he could not do it by himself. How humbling for him to see Simon of Cyrene forced to carry the wood for him. Yet what a gift it was to have the burden lifted from his bruised and bloody shoulders. I think of this when I see people who need others to help them emotionally or physically. It is often a humbling and difficult process to accept the truth of such great neediness. Jesus learned all his life to lean on the one he came to know in his solitude. That is why his cry from the cross is doubly agonizing to hear. My God, why have you forsaken me?" That is, my God, my one from whom I have always gained strength, now at this desperate moment in my life, where are you when I need to lean on you? Jesus needed his lean-tos. And so do we. For some of us, leaning on God or others is not an easy thing. Our Western culture strongly urges us to be independent and self-sufficient. We are supposed to have things under control, to be strong enough to not need anyone else, to not lose our grip, to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. People hide their sorrow and pain. They do not like to be dependent, even on something physical, such as using a cane. Men especially have been encouraged to be tough and to not let the pain show. They usually find it more difficult to lean on others than women do. When we lean, we admit our weakness, our need to be helped. We also recognize the value of another's strength in the face of our own insufficiency. Our family history and our personalities may also affect our ability to trust others with our pain. Those ethnic backgrounds encourage us to be too dependent, while others insist on complete self-sufficiency. I know this from my personal experience. My German heritage brings with me a belief that one should always be able to stand alone and get through life without having to lean on others. I'm going to skip down for a second here. I learned the blessing of leaning when I had major surgery. A member of my religious community wanted to be with me, but I told her I could just manage myself. She insisted, so I gave in rather reluctantly. I really realized after I woke up from anesthesia how much I needed her compassionate presence. Another reason we might not lean very well is that we may not know and trust God enough. We may dread the thought of being vulnerable, even to God. Or we may find ourselves getting tired of having to lean on God. We'd like to be able to take care of our own pain by ourselves. I once saw a cartoon that said, "God, would you help me with this, but make it look like I did it myself?" The Hebrew Psalms are filled with images of God as an encircling shield, a shelter, a stronghold when times are difficult, a rock, a fortress, someone who revives our soul and girds us with strength, shelters us under an awning and hides us deep in a protective tent. God is a comfort in illness and a light in our darkness. What a wonderful opportunity we have to take our struggles to this God who receive encouragement, strength, consolation, compassion, understanding, and full acceptance. I encourage you to identify your lean-tos, your shelters, and places of comfort. Take time to notice the lean-tos around you. Park shelters, public transportation, bus stops, walkers, crutches, umbrellas, awnings, shade trees. And as you see these shelters, remember one of your spiritual shelters and give thanks. And now I'm going to ask you to take those pieces of paper and your writing utensil. And I'm going to ask you 3 questions. First one is, how has God been a lean-to or support or comfort for you? How has God been a lean-to, support, or comfort for you? Second one, first of all, before we go to the second one, now thank God in your heart, in your soul. Thank God for being there for you. Second one is, who are the people in your life who have been shelters or lean-tos for you in times of trouble or distress? Who are the people in your life who have been shelters or lean-tos for you? And when you've done that, just write a brief thank you to them for being there for you. And the third one is, who are the people for whom you've been a support or refuge? Who are the people for whom you've been a support or refuge? Who has come to you in their times of distress, joy? And perhaps when you see them, thank them for being there for you.